You need people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this. We now know who young Serene Satine is going to be facing later on this month on the 27th for what is a WBA gold title. She's going to be facing former WBC atomweight champion of the Czech Republic, Fabiana Bytyqi, in what I characterize as a 50-50 fight, and the kind of fight that Serene needs, the kind of fight she should have had before she fought Dina Thorslund. Serene Satine sports a professional record, 12 wins with 1 loss, no draws, 7 knockouts. Having never been knocked out in 13 professional bouts, Serene Satine is a puncher. We already know that the women don't often rack up knockouts as often as the men do, so for Serene to have won 7 out of 12 fights by way of knockout, that's quite a bit. That's actually a lot. And she is best described as a pressure fighter, a volume puncher, whereas Fabiana Bytyqi, the more experienced fighter of the two, sports a professional record of 22 wins with 1 loss, 2 draws, 5 knockouts. Having never been knocked out in 25 professional bouts. Now, Fabiana, she's got some height and she's got some length, but believe it or not, she's actually the naturally smaller fighter of the two. This is a fighter who used to fight as low as atom weight, whereas in her last fight, she has since moved up to bantam, a former champion. Last in action in April of this year opposite the ring, Jane Kavulani, who she decisioned over 6 rounds, currently on a 2-fight winning streak after having dropped a decision to Germany's own Tina Ruprecht at atomweight. After she lost the belt and lost that fight, she tried to make a resurgence. She tried to make atomweight one more time, but collapsed on the scales due to dehydration. She came back as a super flyweight, and in her last fight, she fought at bantam. Currently on a 2-fight winning streak. Serene Satine, comparatively, has not yet seen action this year, but she fought 2 times the last one, once in May, then again in October, in what was a rebound fight after having dropped a decision to unified bantamweight champion Dina Thorslund. And I said it then, she was not ready for that fight. Stylistically, she wasn't ready for that fight. Physically, she wasn't ready for that fight. Not developed enough. This is the kind of fight that she should have had en route to that fight. A fight with a former champion in a more manageable situation. The fight between her and Fabiana in many ways is a 50-50 fight because Fabiana is a lot more experienced. More fights, more rounds in the bank. She reigned as a champion for something like 5 or 6 years, but because she did that at a naturally smaller weight, that does give Serene an advantage. But Serene is used to fighting bigger girls. Serene Satine is 28, whereas Fabiana is 29, and in terms of the tail of the tape, they might be about even, eye level to each other, but like I said, Serene Satine normally campaigns at bantam, whereas Fabiana moved up there not that long ago. So she's still acclimating. In what looks to be a 50-50 fight, I give Serene Satine a slight edge because of where the fight is happening. It's happening in her neck of the woods. It's happening in Turkey. Serene Satine, best described as a pressure fighter, a volume puncher, a very aggressive one, whereas Fabiana is a bit more textbook, a bit more conventional. I imagine that as the fight goes on and the rounds progress, the judges might give Serene Satine special consideration because she is a busy fighter within a round, and she is the home fighter. It's happening in Turkey, so you know how it goes. The caveat for Serene Satine is that on more than one occasion, I have seen her get tired. I have seen her gas out in the Mary Romero fight, and certainly in the Dina Thorslund fight, that when she stepped up in competition and the pace was fast and hot and heavy, her engine gave out. That is a distinct possibility with Fabiana, but like I said, because it's in Serene's neck of the woods, she might still get special consideration. This is for a WBA gold title. We still don't know if this is a WBA gold title at bantamweight or is it at super bantamweight? The fight is not yet registered on BoxRec, and it doesn't say it on the fight poster. What version of a WBA gold title and at what weight? What version of the title are they fighting for, and at what weight?
I suppose those answers will come shortly since the fight is set to go down later on this month, but preliminary reaction, I like the fight. It's a very good fight.
And we'll talk more about it as the fight date approaches. In men's lightweight news, Shakur Stevenson Rodriguez said, "Boxing media is terrible. If y'all have an issue with the fighter not giving you an interview, you gonna go abuse your platform to speak down their name."
Uh-oh.
And this is why bigger name fighters barely want to do interviews with y'all. When he says this, I don't get the sense he's talking about the esteemed professionals, the really good ones like Marcos Villegas or Radio Raheem, the good people over there at IFL.
Because those guys are really professional. Whereas some are a bit more biased, a bit more partial. Some are more characters themselves than interviewers.
A former champion Raymond Ford added to Shakur Stevenson's commentary saying, "And they be interviewing other guys trying to get them to speak bad on you too, starting a whole hate train. A lot of them guys is lame too." I think athletes in a very general sense, but boxers more specifically, have always had a fractured relationship with the media. The moment that a member of the media asks a question that perhaps they don't like, puts them on the spot.
You know, fighters blow hot and cold. They're a temperamental bunch. So I don't think the boxers themselves and many members of the media have ever had all that good a relationship, but it does seem like it's gotten progressively worse.
Now maybe that has something to do with who covers the sport now as opposed to who was covering it before. Before, it was actual pundits, actual journalists with actual news outlets, whereas these days, a lot of the time, it's just fans of the sport that have a YouTube channel, i.e. content creators, which is what Shakur is talking about.
One content creator is not taking this shit lying down and has come out swinging is Two-Tone, the superstar, who had this and that to say about the relationship between the boxers and the content creators. He's got opinions of his own.
Y'all niggas will jump on a clout platform in a minute. You don't give a fuck what it is, long as it's clout, nigga. You gonna jump up on there. But the reality of the situation is YouTube content creators, TikTok content creators, Instagram content creators is the only niggas that talk about you niggas. Let me tell y'all like this. Boxing ain't popping like that, my G. It ain't cracking like that, my dog. Only a few of y'all niggas can walk into a mall and shut it down. YouTube content creators get you niggas lit, bro. Respectfully. And let me tell you like this. They say, well, Keyshawn Davis, he fought on ESPN. Keyshawn Davis ain't never been on Sports Center as a lead story ever in life. It's very rare for Stephen A. Smith to open up a show talking about the sport of boxing. It is very rare for Fox Sports to talk about boxing. You niggas don't see, y'all want niggas to talk about y'all, but only if they ride your dick. Pause. That's what y'all want, bro. Y'all want dick riders. Pause. Y'all want meat riders, bro. And yeah, there is certain media niggas that's clamoring for credentials. Them niggas will gas you niggas up for credentials.
Responding to that, Shakur Stevenson Rodriguez said, "You're not even speaking on the topic, Two-Tone. And no, I do interviews with very small platforms all the time, even do interviews with guys I know dislike me. All I'm saying is, y'all have too many hidden agendas with y'all's content." I say it all the time.
You guys know I have a habit of repeating myself that two things can be true at the same time. I think Two-Tone is right, but I also think Shakur Stevenson is right. There are many, many content creators out there with their own ulterior motives, their own agendas.
We've seen it for years. Some that will go as far as manufacturing their own rumors with no basis in reality, manufacturing their own news. How many salacious headlines have you seen from Fanon International, who claimed that Amazon made a $500 million deal with the PBC?
That guy lies all the time. When there ain't no news, he literally makes it up.
More particular to what Shakur Stevenson's talking about, there are content creators out there, interviewers, that have their own biases, their own favorites, and they operate on that assumption to the point They may as well be a member of a boxer's street team.
What we saw 3 weeks ago between Ellie Seckbach and Lamont Roach. How Ellie Seckbach was actually laying into Lamont Roach because Lamont was angry that Gervonta wasn't going to fight him again.
It's the kind of partiality I think that Shakur is talking about in some content creators that like to stir the pot, create discord between boxers for the sake of clicks and metrics on their monetized accounts.
On Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Instagram, you name it. What Shakur is talking about is something real, but at the same time, what Two Tone said was real too.
It was.
A lot of these boxers only really want to do interviews with people that are going to stroke their egos, ask them softball questions, even before the advent of content creators taking over the role of covering boxing.
In the Mayweather era, you heard all the time about certain members of the media not receiving press credentials because the boxer or the promotion doesn't like them.
Doesn't like their line of questioning.
What Two Tone the Superstar is talking about is a lot of these boxers and their teams will readily give an interview to anyone who grovels at their feet, and their ego is not parallel to their celebrity status.
Gotta kiss their ass and cup their balls.
I couldn't do it. That's why I'm not an interview guy. I don't want to be. I have too many strong opinions to then reach out to a fighter for access and rely on that to make content. But some people do.
And the ones that do, some of them, have to kiss ass and brown nose and coddle the fighter, stroke their ego.
And I'm not talking about the esteemed professionals, the really good interviewers like Marcos Villegas and Radio Raheem, Michelle Joy Phelps when she was doing interviews.
The good people at IFL TV, Boxing News, they're a lot more impartial. No, we're talking about the content creators specifically, the characters, because a lot of them are.
I literally said this just the other day, that whether the boxers like it or not, they are indebted to many of these content creators, good and bad, the ones who talk them up and the ones that don't, because they're the only ones talking about them. Long gone are the days of major news outlets taking time out to talk about boxing, at least in America. They still do it in the UK. They do it on Sky Sports. But here?
Oh yeah, they still do it in other countries, but here, boxing ain't what it used to be, and the only media, as it were, that still talks about boxing in abundance are the content creators.
Nobody would be talking about a Jermel or a Jermall Charlo returning to action if not for the content creators that cover this sport, but the boxers are not always appreciative of that. So what Two Tone is talking about is very real.
I suppose that there is some blame to be assigned on both sides, and that's not the sexiest answer, not the most provocative perspective, but reality is often more mundane than it's made out to be. The boxers could stand to do a bit better, but the content creators could too, and maybe what this will result in is a return to impartiality, that if you insist on interviewing boxers to produce content, maybe you could stand to be a bit more professional about it, a bit more unbiased. And there are still people out there like this. Like I said, Marcos Villegas, Radio Raheem, Cynthia Conte.
These are very good interviewers. Impartial, Charlie Parsons,
Kugan Cassius.
The list goes on. There is a difference between content creators that do a product review of sorts, like myself, and the content creators that rely on interviews to create content. There is a difference, so maybe you gotta mitigate those opinions a bit.
Everybody could stand to do a bit better. I guess that's the moral of the story.
Men's heavyweight news, an update to a story we talked about in my previous video. Joseph Parker and Fabio Wardley are in talks for an October 25th London clash, sources say. Joseph Parker is in talks to fight British heavyweight Fabio Wardley on October 25th in London, sources have told ESPN. A ballsy move, I think, from Fabio Wardley, given his last showing with Justice Hooney, who is a lot less experienced than Joseph Parker. Parker, 36-3 with 25 knockouts, is the WBO interim title holder and was in line to challenge undisputed champion Oleksandr Usyk next. Oleksandr Usyk, who is under orders to produce medical documentation that verifies that he is currently unable to compete and thereby satisfy his mandatory challenger per a doctor's orders. That video of him dancing around and shaking his ass is not in keeping with someone who claims to have a back injury and should avoid any sporting activity. That's how all of that got started. Sources have told ESPN that Parker wants to stay active and is now in advanced talks to take on undefeated Brit Fabio Wardley in a high-stakes heavyweight fight at London's O2 Arena. Joseph Parker is not going to sit on his hands, waiting for Usyk to sort himself out with the WBO. He's going to take another high-stakes fight on, but I feel like the fight is even more high-stakes for Fabio than it is for Joseph when you compare their last outings. Joseph dispatched Martin Bakole in, 1 or 2 rounds?
Whereas Flavio was getting a boxing lesson from Justice Huni up until he found that Hail Mary knockout punch. Wardley, 19-0 with 1 draw and 18 knockouts of Ipswich, is the interim WBA champion and has a big domestic following. The 30-year-old is coming off an impressive knockout win over Aussie Justice Huni at Portman Road in June. While Joseph Parker is from New Zealand, he also has a healthy following in the UK, having been based in the Northern Hemisphere since he began training with Tyson Fury and trainer Andy Reid. These are just my thoughts. I like the fight. I really like the fight.
I think that by now it's established that Fabio Wardley, in spite of not having any amateur pedigree, just a few white-collar fights before going pro, he's got elite-level power, game-changing power, that keeps him in a fight so long as it is a fight.
That equalizer, that at any moment he could let the right hand go and finish a guy, even if the guy is winning, like Justice Huni was winning, well on his way to win a lopsided decision before that Hail Mary punch landed.
But because Justice Huni, a fighter of limited professional experience, was able to have so much success against Fabio just based on his boxing acumen as an amateur.
That's what Justice had going for him, that Justice has all the amateur experience and accolades that Fabio doesn't have. You saw that in the fight. He's boxing and moving and putting punches together, making it difficult for Fabio to get anything going, all before the knockout punch landed. You figure that if a guy like Justice can do that, a guy like Joseph?
Oh, he might finish you. He might. You see how he dominated Deontay Wilder by putting the pressure on? You see what he did to Martin Bakole on short notice? And with Zhilei Zhang, you saw that he endured, that even though he got knocked down, he got up and he won the fight. Not that Joseph Parker was ever all that big a puncher. He's a bigger puncher than Justice Huni, and that's important. Because if Justice Huni had a smidge more power, you know he probably would have knocked out Fabio Wardley. That's what was keeping Fabio in a fight that he was so clearly losing, that Justice don't have that much power.
Joseph's got more than him and more experience in the paid ranks. Coming off of what he's coming off of, Fabio, he got hit a lot in that Huni fight.
A lot.
A whole lot. What is he bringing to a Parker fight?
You wonder that if they make this, Fabio isn't tenderized as a result of the Huni fight, because he may have won the fight, but that doesn't undo the damage he sustained. Whereas Parker ended the fight with Martin before he even broke a sweat.
He's having a great run of form, Joseph Parker. The win over Wilder, the win over Zhang.
The knockout win over Martin Bakole. Fabio's got balls. If he ain't got nothing, he's got that.
And a big punch.
It's clutch. And that's what makes this such a great fight. That, you know, Joseph Parker could be losing the fight, and out of nowhere, Fabio gets in with a good one. He's got that kind of power. So, I like it if they can make it.